Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. It's easy, fast, and it helps us produce new content.
My wife Lauren and I work at the same marketing firm in Miami. Lauren holds the position of client ambassador, though the specifics of her role remain a bit of a mystery to me. I'm Mark, the head of the IT team. Things were going well. Both employed, happy. We'd just finished renovating our old house in Coral Gables. We have two wonderful kids, Emma, 13, and Daniel, 11. We live close to our families with tight-knit friendships, and, in our mid-30s, we complement each other well. Though she outshines me in looks, Lauren is tall, 5'9", with long blonde hair and striking blue eyes. She says her family has roots in the Midwest, with a slender, vibrant presence, always on the move. I'm also 5'9", with light brown hair, and I prefer endurance sports, like cycling and running, which keep me fit, though not visibly athletic. I was surprised when we were invited to a long weekend on a private island off the Florida Keys, owned by one of our firm's clients. Our CEO, John Edwards, explained that he, his wife Margaret, several directors, and their partners would be attending. Lauren was also invited due to her role as the client's primary contact. I seemed to be there to round out the numbers, but hey, you don't question a good opportunity. John emphasized the client's wealth and the potential importance for our company, mentioning a Friday departure and Monday return on a private chartered flight. All expenses paid. Lauren seemed well informed, having worked closely with the client for months, and was excited for a free weekend. Though I asked about the plans, she didn't have many details. I inquired about the client, and Lauren explained that his name was Walter Freeman, a man in his mid-40s who exudes confidence and inherited a family fortune. She seemed a bit captivated, describing him as assertive and private. Great, I thought. He sounds like an arrogant jerk, but I decided to keep that observation to myself until the weekend. 2 weeks later, on Friday morning, we boarded a private, chartered plane. I must admit, I was impressed. If the island belonged to him, it had to be pretty luxurious. I wasn't sure what to expect, but the island looked vast, maybe 5 miles long and a couple of miles wide, off the coast of Key West. As we approached to land, it resembled a 5-star resort, with main buildings positioned behind a crescent-shaped, white sand beach, fringed with palm trees. Lauren was thrilled, and the others shared her excitement. After settling into our rooms, we joined our host for lunch on a veranda overlooking the ocean, where the breeze carried the scent of salt water and the sound of waves. Though I was initially wary, Walter seemed affable, and Lauren even downplayed his appearance, comparing him to a well-known American actor. He thanked us for coming and encouraged us to relax. We chatted with other couples from our firm and met a stunning brunette named Charlotte, whom I assumed was Walter's companion for the weekend. Besides the service staff, there was a man who appeared to be a security guard, lurking in the background. I wondered what threats Walter faced that required protection even on a secluded island. Walter greeted Lauren warmly, and they seemed at ease in each other's company. She, along with the others, seemed to hang on his words, likely due to his generosity as a host and his status as our firm's most valuable client. We had a fantastic afternoon snorkeling, kayaking, and simply lounging on the beach, with burgers and iced tea readily available. Later, we all gathered for a group dinner, enjoying a laid-back, friendly atmosphere with small group conversations. Charlotte approached us, introducing herself warmly, sharing anecdotes about her upbringing in Atlanta. Despite giving the impression of coming from a wealthy family, she seemed genuinely pleasant. I wondered if she was a model or perhaps didn't need to work. To my surprise, she displayed flirtatious behavior, even in Lauren's presence. I deftly sidestepped her advances, chalking it up to her overly friendly nature. With no kid responsibilities and the serene setting, it was an ideal setup for a romantic evening. Lauren was especially affectionate, and our lovemaking was passionate. She professed her love for me repeatedly, making it one of the most memorable nights in a while. Maybe there was merit to the notion of a love island after all. I was hoping for a repeat the next morning, but Lauren quickly got ready for breakfast, urging me to finally get out of bed and join her. As she chatted with John and Walter, I wondered if work matters were on their minds, given the slightly tense tone. Perhaps Walter was using the weekend to discuss business issues. As I approached them, the conversation seemed to falter briefly. After a quick snack of bagels and coffee, we and the others continued to enjoy another delightful day by the pool. On Saturday, we went out for dinner, and I couldn't help but notice Lauren's stunning outfit. She looked breathtaking in a red satin evening dress and high heels. After dinner, Walter asked for a few minutes of our time. We agreed and followed him to an office, accompanied by a security guard. Walter took a seat in a leather armchair, while I settled on the couch across from Lauren, noticing her pulling away from me. After a prolonged pause, Walter mentioned he had a proposition for me, stating it was of a personal nature. I responded affirmatively, maintaining composure despite feeling utterly stunned. Walter elaborated, expressing his pleasure in working with Lauren and the bond they'd developed over the past months. He then made a proposal, expressing his desire to spend the rest of the weekend with Lauren. He offered compensation for her time away from me, proposing to transfer $100,000 to our joint account. I laughed, assuming it was a joke, and couldn't resist making a quip about his generosity, compared to a famous movie offer. However, the room fell silent, with no one joining in the laughter. Walter continued, "As with any business deal, I'm open to negotiating the price to get what I want. Additionally, Charlotte will be at a loose end, and I'd appreciate it if you'd agree to entertain her." I looked at Lauren, expecting a smile, but instead, she looked troubled. "This isn't a joke, Mark," she said firmly. "Walter invited me to join him, and I think we should seriously consider this offer." I felt like exploding, but before I could react, the guard was already close. I was surprised by how quickly he moved. Walter pressed on, saying he was certain his wife fully supported this idea. What harm could come of it? We'd all have a great time, and you'd gain a substantial amount of money. Turning to Lauren, I commented, "Maybe the price difference is because Demi Moore didn't settle for that amount." Lauren flinched at my remark, but wisely chose to stay silent. My mind raced as I struggled to think clearly. My breathing grew ragged. I looked at the guard, whose posture had shifted entirely. He seemed wary, focusing intently on my movements, and rightly so, given my strong urge to attack Walter. "What's your name?" I asked, my voice tense. "Ex-military. By your demeanor, you must deal with this sort of thing often." "Samuel, sir," he replied calmly. "I can't comment on this matter, and if you attacked my boss, I think I could handle you." Samuel gave a smile. "Perhaps, just to keep me from doing so." "Sir," turning back to Walter, I said, "it's lucky you brought him. Otherwise, I might have knocked you out." Walter remained unfazed. "Let's not be hasty, Mark, a lot is riding on this." Lauren interjected, "I'm asking you to consider it. Think about it, Mark, just a few days, and the money could change our lives forever." I was devastated. It was clear Lauren was on board and had even instigated this plan. "Tell me, darling," I pressed, "did the money offer make you agree to this?" With no response from Lauren, I continued, "I suspect Charlotte was offered as an added incentive. Who is she? Some fancy lady?" Walter replied, "Charlotte is a close personal friend of mine. Beyond her wealth, she's an elite escort who only takes on contracts that pique her interest. Rest assured, you'll have an extraordinary experience with her." Lauren flinched again, but offered no defense. "Well, Walter," I shot back, "you can take your money and shove it up your perfumed backside." At that moment, Lauren spoke, revealing her true intentions. She explained it was her decision and emphasized it was only about physical lovemaking. She mentioned that both she and Walter were curious about exploring this with others, assuring me their connection was limited to mutual liking and wouldn't diminish our love for each other. Lauren expressed confidence that both Charlotte and I would enjoy the experience. Shocked by her words, I gradually grasped the gravity of the situation. I expressed to my dear wife that my desire for exclusivity was profound and meant more than she could realize. I accused her of betrayal and conspiracy behind my back, declaring I could never trust her again if she was willing to engage in this behavior once. Lauren responded quickly, claiming I was overreacting. She stated she'd informed me of her intentions and insisted on her honesty. She mentioned the affair would happen, but assured me of her return, promising full devotion afterward. Lauren appealed to my love for her, urging me to allow this one-time indulgence. She pointed out potential benefits, like financial gain, vacations, and family experiences. Lauren cautioned against using our kids as an excuse and rejected the idea that money motivated her, accusing me of wanting the affair. She concluded by suggesting my honesty would only matter if we reached agreements together, implying I was aligned with Walter, whom she despised as an arrogant jerk. Lauren continued, stating she believed the mention of money in Charlotte was only because she didn't expect me to agree. I admitted I still didn't agree, even with the money offer. She confessed she wanted to try something different and felt attracted to Walter, but believed it shouldn't harm our relationship. I expressed my reluctance to change and questioned if she thought this course of action was superior. I asked if she'd already made her decision, even going so far as to dress up for the occasion. She warned me not to resist, indicating I wouldn't appreciate the consequences. Confused, I asked for clarification on what she meant. She responded, suggesting I wouldn't benefit from fighting her desires or seeking a divorce, as it would result in losing everything. She warned she'd see me the next day and assured me of her love and exclusivity. Feeling suffocated, I knew I had to get out before losing control. Struggling to breathe, I stood and headed for the door. Despite Lauren calling my name, I kept moving down the hall. Charlotte approached and hugged me, offering comfort. I turned to her, acknowledging her presence. "Who are you? Some damn consolation prize." She stepped back, confident. I kept walking and eventually made it outside but didn't feel okay. I heard footsteps behind me and was disappointed to see it was Samuel, not Lauren. "Listen, Samuel, you just need to leave me alone." I'd love to, he replied, but I need to ensure you don't do anything reckless. Got any thoughts? Because I'm out of ideas? Mark, you don't look good. Just sit against the wall, pull your knees up, and focus on breathing long and slow. Feeling weak, I didn't have the strength to argue. It felt like an eternity, but it was probably just a few minutes before I calmed down. I noticed Samuel sitting beside me. Thanks. I might have had an anxiety or panic attack. You looked pretty pale, but you seem better now, Samuel said. So, any ideas on getting out of this mess? Samuel answered honestly. You can't leave the island today. No boats, and the plane and pilot left for another charter. You could try radioing for help, but an unfaithful wife isn't exactly an emergency. I'm relieved you see her as unfaithful. She doesn't seem to get that, and I'm starting to doubt myself. What should I do? I can't even confront him now because of you. Yeah, sorry about that. I'd walk away, but it'd ruin my career. After a pause, Samuel suggested, think about your next move and make a plan. Whatever your decision, it can wait until Monday. It's like in the military. Strategize, keep quiet about your intentions. The problem is, I'm out of ideas on what to do. They've got it all planned, and I just have to endure tomorrow and Monday while you watch me. After a pause, Samuel said, there's a cargo ship coming early Monday. You can hitch a ride if you want to avoid the plane with everyone else. They can't stop you, and nobody wants to be accused of kidnapping. I might even go with you. This deal's losing its appeal. I don't like being on the wrong side, even if it's well paid. Okay, that's helpful. I just need to get through tomorrow. How about we go for a walk around the island tomorrow morning to distract me? And think about Charlotte. She seems nice, and you've got nothing to lose. If you don't want to go back, you can sleep in one of the cabins tonight. I don't think our room's empty. I'll go back there. Maybe she'll change her mind. Of course, she didn't. Surprisingly, I fell asleep, probably from exhaustion. The next morning, I changed into workout clothes and headed down quickly, hoping to avoid everyone and take my walk with Samuel. Unfortunately, the dining room went silent as soon as I entered. I quickly grabbed some fruit and heard murmurs that everything would be fine. Then a man in a suit approached with his wife. Look, Mark, we've all been through this. Just go with it, it's not personal. He deals with other wives and then moves on, and he's very generous. As he spoke those words, I noticed his wife's neck turn red. At that moment, Lauren and Walter emerged. She looked absolutely content, I'd say, until she saw me. Her smile faded. She let go of that jerk's hand and approached me, intending to kiss or hug me. I ensured distance and surveyed the room. God, I thought, what an idiot. Everyone knew what was going to happen even before the weekend started. What an absolute idiot I was that walked out. Lauren pleaded, please stay. Mark, let's talk with the group and have another good day together. Scanning the room again, I found every eye fixed on me, some anticipating, others amused by the scene. No, he paid for you, and he can keep you. But before I go, I need to address the group. I believe this weekend was planned some time ago, and you were all in on it. So it's only fair, you hear me out. Every group member exchanged shocked glances, looking nervously at each other. John and Margaret, I wouldn't have come this weekend if it weren't for you. I never imagined you were involved in something so vile. You know and tolerate what he does, like some sick voyeur fan club. I hope you enjoyed keeping me in the dark. I noticed their awkward movements. This clearly wasn't part of their plan. I thought we were friends, and your efforts to make me feel at home so you could orchestrate everything was a nice touch. This is deeply personal. So, thank you all for ruining my marriage. The fact that they're willing to leverage my kids is frankly disgusting. Lauren interjected. Mark, you're overreacting. It was just closeness, a one-time fling. I told you, I love you. I cut her off, commenting on what I perceived as the initial phase of her defense strategy. I mentioned I was aware she'd planned my reaction and expressed curiosity about her intentions. I described phase A as staying in the current situation and being compelled to accept what happened while trying to normalize everything. I mentioned the belief that I shouldn't overreact, be rude, or act childishly, and acknowledge the need for personal growth, attributing any issue to my ego, despite knowing it wouldn't succeed. I described this as part of the process to soften my stance. Moving to phase B, I proposed that after the weekend, I'd take charge, suggested increasing physical love, perhaps trying something new and leveraging our connection to improve our relationship. I suggested she might have discussed seducing me and affectionately urged her not to let my feelings of loss linger too long. I described Lauren's nervous glance at Walter, indicating my comment had struck her deeply. I mentioned the money he'd offered and suggested using the prostitution earnings to take the kids to Disney World, causing discomfort among some present. I outlined a potential phase B if our conflict persisted, referring to a seed planted the previous night, suggesting allowing her desires was a test of my love. She acknowledged my 15 years of devotion and emphasized this was just one night for me. She admitted it might weaken her resolve but questioned what she'd gain after 15 years of devotion, if mistreated. She expressed doubts about the plan's effectiveness and suggested I give her time to cool off. She predicted that in a week or two, I'd likely be found drowning my sorrows in a bar, followed by her seeking forgiveness. To which I referred. As Phase D, I questioned whether she genuinely regretted her actions and realized the depth of the harm caused. She speculated she wouldn't have pursued it if aware of the pain it would cause. I suggested she'd profess love, beg, and cry, but expressed doubts about the effectiveness of that approach due to her public displays of affection with Walter. I concluded by stating Phase D wouldn't work and hinted at the need for a backup plan. I referred to Phase D as threats, suggesting she'd take all the money, the house, and turn the kids against me, speculating on the potential consequences of me ending up sad, broke, and alone, even suggesting the threat of moving in with him and living happily ever after with our kids. That last statement prompted a reaction from Walter, indicating his reluctance to that idea. Lauren finally found her voice. "It's not that big a deal," she began. "Why don't we relax and give ourselves time to think? This is Phase D, Lauren. We've already been through this," I said firmly. "So why don't we save everyone's time and move to the final outcome?" This is what I thought about last night, and my conclusion is that everyone, including the kids, would be better off if we parted ways. It's far healthier than living in an unhappy home. In the end, it was clear neither of us could find happiness amidst this turmoil. I stated that despite any attempts to stop me from seeing my kids, I knew I was a good father. And ultimately, that's what mattered. I expressed doubts about receiving support from her family and friends once they knew of her actions. Money was never my priority. It was always about her. There was a moment of silence among everyone present as I questioned if anyone had more tricks up their sleeve or if I'd missed anything. When there was no response, I addressed John, stating he could keep his job, but I'd see him in court for wrongful termination, as my job hinged on having my wife as a client, which seemed to be the underlying reason for the situation. With that, I walked out, and the room fell silent. Samuel followed me. As usual, as we left, Samuel chuckled. "Well played. Looks like you took the advice to keep the plan to yourself seriously." I couldn't help but smile. "Yeah, looks like I ruined that idea." Samuel genuinely laughed as we exited the building. "Good thing you stayed civilian. You'd never have cut it in the military anyway. Come on, Samuel." Samuel grabbed his backpack, and we set off at a leisurely pace along the coast. After a mile, I was struggling to keep up and began wondering if it was a mistake. I heard Samuel shout something ahead about how physical exertion is a great way to distract from.
Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. It's easy, fast, and it helps us produce new content.
Mental anguish. My burning muscles and lungs seemed to agree. The scenery was stunning, with cliffs and native coastal mangroves, and Samuel proved to be excellent company. He shifted from asking about me to sharing amusing anecdotes from his military days. We spent hours exploring the northern part of the island, tracing the coastline and climbing to a central peak overlooking the sea. When Samuel proposed running downhill for our return, I struggled to keep up, suspecting he slowed his pace, either to help me or tease me, depending on the perspective. By noon, we were back, and as I gasped for air, Samuel, a former fitness instructor, assured me my fitness level was decent. Feeling exhausted, I made my way to my room, finding Lauren absent, which led me to wonder if she was earning extra money. After a refreshing shower, hunger drove me to the dining room in search of sustenance, only to be disappointed again by Walter and Lauren's presence. Samuel remained in the background, looking remarkably fresh and sharp in a suit. Walter, in his usual confident mode, began addressing me. "Mark, my dear friend, I believe we got off on the wrong foot, and I want to extend my apologies. I've never encountered issues like this in my past relationships and certainly didn't intend to jeopardize your marriage." "It's too late," I replied curtly. "You completed the deed. I wish to withdraw my request to spend this evening with your wife and increase the compensation." With those words, Walter handed me a document. I opened it and found a check for $250,000. I looked at Lauren, who seemed to be crying, and couldn't resist commenting, "You must have been quite skilled to earn that much, darling." Lauren's eyes flashed with anger. "That's irrelevant. We made a terrible mistake, and we're trying to fix it." Walter acted like a gentleman and genuinely cared about her reaction. I laughed at that notion. "What's your notion of an ideal gentleman? Did he express gratitude after lovemaking?" "There's no need for jests, Mark. This was simply a lapse in judgment on our part. We misjudged your response. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for us both. You should appreciate Lauren's sacrifice to offer you and your kids a better life." I questioned whether their actions were merely a lapse in judgment, expressing my clear opposition to their plan, which they dismissed. I pointed out they could have stopped at any time but chose to continue until satisfied. I tore up the check, sparing them the disgrace but emphasizing that the betrayal remained, doubting it could be repaired this time. Lauren began crying as I addressed them, questioning their motives. Whether it was about control or the thrill of pursuing another man's wife, and criticizing his behavior as pathetic. I highlighted Walter's age and compared his actions to a child grabbing toys just because he could, suggesting he should engage in more meaningful endeavors. In response, Walter laughed, asserting his command of an international corporation and his charitable donations. I criticized his management of the corporation and questioned his involvement in charity work, insinuating he was too absorbed and preoccupied with manipulating lives to genuinely help others. I suggested he derived pleasure from humiliating others, as evidenced by how he planned the weekend. I informed Lauren that Walter's interest in her wasn't exclusive, as he was involved with every board member's wife. So, she was just another one. I addressed Walter directly, urging him to grow up and seek genuine relationships, suggesting he use his wealth for good and change his distasteful behavior. This seemed to make him falter in his speech and appear uncertain for the first time. Then, I instructed Samuel to remove the objectionable matter from my sight before I took action. I noticed Samuel hiding a slight smile before addressing Freeman. I believe it's time we leave, sir, before your safety becomes a concern. After their departure, I grabbed a snack and headed to the beach, seeking to avoid the others. When I thought I was alone, I spotted Charlotte lounging in a hammock, engrossed in reading. If she was beautiful before, her smile now made her truly radiant. I approached her, apologizing for the previous night. Before I could say more, she responded, "No need for apologies. I was certain you'd take the offer. If I'd known, I wouldn't have approached you. Your reaction is completely understandable, and your speech at breakfast was outstanding." I couldn't agree more. When you left, Lauren collapsed in tears, and I've never seen Walter so embarrassed. I savored every moment. "Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Considering your circumstances," I replied. "Thanks, it's appreciated. I'm relieved things are becoming clearer. I'm tired of being told this is nonsense. You see, Walter has no idea how to deal with you. He's never faced rejection before and isn't used to ethical dilemmas." "Did he offer more money yet?" "Yes, just before I came down. $250,000. What a fool. I advised him against it, but he's used to paying his way to get what he wants. He'll face consequences for this, both professionally and personally." Charlotte was receptive, and I listened intently as she discussed my marriage and kids. Clearly intelligent and well-educated, she expressed surprise at Lauren's actions, given our seemingly happy union, suggesting there might have been some discontent or an open arrangement between us. I mused, it's not just an unexpected betrayal. She seems completely captivated by this guy. He has a certain charm with women. He's charismatic, but the depth isn't substantial, if you know what I mean. We talked more, and I felt a bit relieved. "You really care about her. Your response to the proposals and at breakfast must be devastating." I shrugged. "I'm sorry for my part in this. It's not your fault. I just need to get through one more night. Then, maybe I can escape." She smiled again, becoming a pleasant distraction. "Well, maybe I can help with that." Dinner surprised everyone when I joined. Lauren wasn't seated next to Walter. Dinner proceeded normally, though I ignored Lauren's attempts at conversation. When Lauren suggested going to bed early, I politely declined, citing other plans. She seemed embarrassed, which intensified when Charlotte hugged me as I stood from the table. We left together, walking to the beachfront cabins. Initially, the plan was just to leave together and give Lauren a taste of her own medicine. But holding Charlotte felt right, very right. When we kissed, some of the disappointment of the past 24 hours melted away. I struggled with maintaining my morals, my sense of right and wrong. Then, I looked at her. I think Lauren wanted me to be more adaptable. And as far as I'm concerned, Lauren had already broken our marriage vows. I had an exceptional night with Charlotte. It wasn't just her physical beauty. She exuded a serene charm. Every gesture seemed calculated and executed with perfection. She truly mastered her allure. Surprisingly, thoughts of Lauren didn't cross my mind, nor did I feel guilt. The painful image of Lauren with Walter erased any trace of remorse. After a water taxi to Key West Airport and the usual flight to Miami, I picked up the kids and organized their weekend as best I could. I made up a vague story about a disagreement between their mom and me, but suggested we have dinner together. When Lauren walked in, Emma, lugging our heavy suitcase, the kids ran upstairs, yelling, "Hey, Mom!" Lauren smiled. "How nice. Give me a few minutes to freshen up." "I'd rather you didn't," I replied. "Lauren, as you said, I'm unsure how much time I'll have with them, so I'd prefer we go alone." Lauren's perspective: when I met Walter, I felt an immediate connection. He exuded charm, confidence, and strength, reminiscent of characters from American rom-com. It was odd that later, in Mark's presence, he seemed different. Flirting led to lunch and then dinner. It was thrilling, even dizzying. After dinner, his goodnight kiss nearly melted me, but I was resolved not to betray, and told him so. Walter mentioned his past open relationships, making me wonder if Mark would be open to it. When he proposed the idea, I thought the money would justify it. John supported me, and we began planning the weekend. The weekend started wonderfully. I was having a fantastic time with Mark and almost abandoned the whole plan. If only I could have. Walter assured me everything would be fine and advised Mark to relax. Both he and John anticipated Mark's rejection of the idea, but suggested giving him time to cool off. Mark's reaction was completely unexpected and unraveled our plans. The most surprising thing was his apparent illness. Though I wanted to run after him, Walter reassured me everything would be okay. He arranged a meeting with Charlotte, so when he didn't return, I assumed he'd stayed with her. I felt relief. After months of anticipation, I was eager to spend time with Walter. The moment he kissed me, I knew I'd succeed. He led me to his room, and before I could undress, I was already filled with anticipation. Walter stood before me and undressed me gently, treating me like a prized possession. I felt incredibly special. Despite his age, he was remarkably fit, and I wasn't disappointed by his physique or masculinity. When I reached for Walter, he pulled back and began kissing my entire body, exploring every inch, gradually gauging my reactions and responding as if he perfectly understood my desires. My first climax came quickly, thanks to his skillful touch. As I regained awareness, he stood and initiated a passionate kiss. His prowess in lovemaking left me in awe, as waves of sensation enveloped me, now fully consumed by desire. As he intensified his rhythm, as the next climax approached, Walter kept pace with me, eventually both finding solace in each other's embrace. In the middle of the night, confusion enveloped me as I mistakenly believed I was with Mark, only to be startled by another man beside me. Feelings of guilt and worry about Mark's whereabouts flooded my mind. Evidently, I'd disturbed Walter, prompting him to wake and reassure me with a kiss, easing my guilt. The next morning, as I tended to my morning routine, Walter approached me, exuding insatiable desire. Returning to bed, we held hands before I took control, riding ecstatic at the passion and ecstasy reflected in his expression. Once again, our passion culminated in a final climax, fulfilling my expectations and leaving me euphoric, thanking Walter for the wonderful night. It felt natural to interlace our hands as we descended the stairs to the dining room, eager for another night together. However, when I looked at Mark, everything crumbled. Swallowing my panic, Mark's outburst interrupted everything. It became evident he hadn't slept with Charlotte, despite my preparations for his departure. I was unprepared for his unexpected anger. His cold fury was unsettling, as he systematically dismantled my arguments with logical precision. Despite Walter's support, Mark's swift response left me reeling. After his departure, I collapsed in tears, and for the first time, Walter seemed uncertain. As I regained composure, I tried to locate him, to no avail. John and Walter then suggested calling it off, offering more money. When we later presented this offer to Mark, I was stunned by the outcome. Walter's once dominant presence had diminished so significantly that he seemed trivial. Previously, his authority was such that I unquestioningly accepted his every word, but now it was undermined to the extreme. Despite his assurance that we could have fun without risking my marriage, this plan disintegrated, leaving me uncertain about everything. Then, I erupted in irrational fury, assuming I'd extend my stay on the island for fun. However, John's calm but sharp response caught me off guard. "Don't be foolish, Lauren. If you want any chance of saving your marriage, seek forgiveness. Your words must be genuine and sincere. He doesn't seem inclined to change his mind." Personally, I couldn't disagree with anything he said during breakfast. I was even more shocked when John informed Walter that things would never be the same. He continued, asserting Mark's decency and arguing he didn't deserve any of the trouble we caused. Walter, he suggested, should take his advice and grow up. I was stunned to find Mark at the evening dinner. Despite my attempts to engage him in conversation, he simply ignored me. His departure with Charlotte left me devastated. Though I considered chasing him, what could I say? After all, I basically encouraged him to leave. I spent much of the trip rationalizing casual encounters. I felt enraged and betrayed, especially recalling my own past actions with Mark. The fact that our actions were premeditated and widely known only intensified my feelings of guilt. I couldn't help but think I deserved it. Perhaps, hoping mutual indiscretions could save our relationship. The flight back without Mark made me realize the terrible state of my marriage, as he found a way to leave the island before us. I never properly spoke with him after that incident. The gravity of my actions began to hit me, and waves of guilt overwhelmed me. I rationalized about the money. Who would refuse such an offer? My tears turned into uncontrollable sobs, bordering on hysteria. John and Margaret grew increasingly concerned for my well-being. Upon returning home, Mark was there but refused to dine with me and the kids. I barely held it together until they left, then collapsed in tears once more. Being excluded from the meal felt like a grim omen of my future. When I regained composure, I I struggled to anticipate what to say when Mark returned. The dilemma was that everything I thought echoed what he'd already expressed, and I felt ashamed to seek advice from my mom or friends. Arriving home, the kids retreated to their rooms, engrossed in their video games and phones. I watched Lauren. In the kitchen, feeling a sense of estrangement, she approached me, almost whispering, "Can we talk? I mean, really talk." I shrugged, thinking we'd have to address it eventually. "So, why prolong it? I'm so sorry, Mark. I swear it was a one-time thing, and I'll be yours again, faithful as before the weekend." "Mark, I did it for the money. It could change our lives as a family. I did it for us. You did it for yourself. We were fine. Money wasn't an issue." You could hardly wait to jump into his bed. You must have enjoyed the fancy dinner, the closeness. Overall, everyone had fun. You're overreacting. This shouldn't mean anything. You really should skip the excuses. Lauren, it's nonsense, and you know it. This wasn't casual. It was premeditated, arrogant, selfish betrayal. All those traits I detest, and now I despise you. So, you did the same with that woman? No, I didn't. I sought revenge because nothing seemed to penetrate your indifference. You couldn't see how this affected me. I wouldn't have even considered it if I had a faithful wife. And I hope it really hurts, so you can understand my pain. Only I didn't plan it in advance, making me look like a fool to everyone else. Speaking of which, how long did your secret scheme take? And was this the first time with him? Her eyes widened. Then she seemed to realize it was a genuine, reasonable question. It was our inaugural dinner, and I felt his interest in me. John and Margaret seemed to subtly probe, asking if I was intrigued. The four of us dined together, and for the first time in my marriage, I felt a spark of attraction to another man. His self-assurance was captivating. Knowing it was wrong, I vehemently resisted avoiding an affair. Then, Walter suggested the idea of broaching the subject of opening our relationship with you and gauging your thoughts on the swap. We discussed it briefly one night, but it was clear you wouldn't consent. So, he proposed this plan, thinking the money would convince you. As the trip neared, nerves settled, and they suggested inviting Charlotte to ensure your agreement. Though I wasn't thrilled with the idea, by that point, I just wanted it to happen. I genuinely thought that if you didn't fully agree, we could recover. At breakfast, that shattered those notions, and I began to realize things weren't worth it. Lauren sighed. "No, definitely not." I got carried away in the moment and followed his words. "I never meant to hurt you." "Oh, so unintentional pain goes straight to phase D. You seem to enjoy it." Your energy at breakfast said it all. Now you're just telling me what I want to hear. I'm sorry, the honest answer is yes. I enjoyed it. He was good. It wasn't about being bigger or better, just different. It was thrilling, a new thrill, and I was captivated by it. He's very experienced and skilled, but it was a one-time thing. Please don't abandon us and break our family over a single mistake. I caught myself smiling wryly. Funny, that's exactly how I'd describe what you've already done. Destroyed our family for a one-time act. It's all on you. You're right, it's entirely my fault. I'm so sorry. I love you with all my heart, well, not entirely. Part of it went to him, even if you claim otherwise. Your love wasn't enough to keep me faithful. How can I trust you again? I was so confident because I never imagined you were capable of this. I can barely look at you, let alone pretend this never happened. Lauren recoiled, shocked. You can't claim you love me. I know. I never imagined losing you. I agree. You only thought of yourself and your desires, neglecting me and the kids. But sometimes, love isn't enough. I stated. I tried to calm myself and avoid scoring points or escalating the argument. After a long pause, I continued, addressing Lauren. I mentioned that even if we decided to stay together and ignore the issue, things would never be the same. I emphasized she'd destroyed the trust and sense of care we had for each other, adding she knew this more than anything. I reminded her we cared for each other and the kids and didn't want anyone else to get hurt. I expressed my disbelief that she could hurt me this way. She expressed her love for me and admitted to making a colossal mistake, stating her willingness to do anything to fix it. However, she disagreed with the idea of divorcing, believing her actions weren't indicative of true love. Lauren fell, silent, stunned, unsure what else to say. We need to discuss the kids. I believe the kids are better off in separated families than dysfunctional ones. So, from that perspective, divorce seems the best option. I agree, you should have custody, but don't try to stop me from seeing them. It's for your own benefit too. They listened to me. You're not great at setting boundaries. I frowned at the irony of her statement, and they're already testing you. It's better for you and them if I stay in their lives. Lauren shrugged. Seriously, Lauren, no matter what happens, don't keep the kids from me. Don't alienate me. I'm not a bad father. I treat them well and love them deeply. You haven't seen me angry yet. I'll fight tooth and nail, spend all our money on lawyers, and we'll destroy each other in the process. She nodded. I'd never do that. You're a wonderful father, and they need you. They'll want you to keep taking them on trips and coaching them in all their sports. I turned to her, surprised by the first comment where I felt she wasn't trying to manipulate me or justify her actions. Be careful, Lauren. You're really pushing Phase D. Even knowing who I am, why do this? I can't help but think you secretly wanted us to split. Lauren expressed herself urgently. God, never. There's no excuse for this. I became selfish, convinced I could gain something more. It seemed like I could somehow hold on to you. Why didn't you stop me that night and just walk away? Reflecting on the situation, I mentioned it was hard to breathe, and I needed to get out. After that, nothing else seemed to matter. The fact that she pursued another guy at any cost meant I'd already lost. I suggested the conversation had ended as long before she ended up in his bed. Maybe it all ended when she started planning it. She spent weeks talking with him, preparing. Letting her go and not trying to stop her made it easier to accept the end. I emphasized there was no going back. It was the beginning of the end. The marriage unraveled in less than 4 days. We divorced, fortunately without needing counseling. I think Lauren didn't want to justify her actions. It's a shame, in a way. I hoped a professional could help her see how wrong she was. She kept one promise, though, and in the end, we split time with the kids more or less evenly. She even confessed to them it was all her fault, without going into details. They were old enough to understand and often chose for themselves where to stay. They were at that age where parents become famous as taxi drivers and loan sharks. Maybe I'm biased, but I think they're great kids and handled the divorce remarkably well. Kids can be surprisingly resilient. Per the divorce terms, Lauren could keep our Coral Gables house until the kids reached adulthood, then sell or buy it out, but I still wanted that for the kids. It let them stay in the same school. Fortunately, that paid off when the kids went to college. Property prices skyrocketed. Lauren had to buy out my share, and it ended up being the best investment of my life. How could she afford it? Well, we split $250,000 in the divorce. As with Carr, I couldn't claim the moral high ground. What can I say? I'm a practical person. Anyway, it seemed a small price to pay compared to the cost of the marriage and our once happy life. I quit my job, got a payout to avoid the embarrassment of a court, and started my own web design business. Lauren kept trying to reconcile, but I wasn't interested. Ending the relationship was the right choice. It was a mess, and there were no winners, but the threats and dire consequences never materialized. I wasn't going to forget or forgive that.
Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. It's easy, fast, and it helps us produce new content.